let's get started, guys. As you see on the screen, today's workshop is with VMware. We have Vinay Bhatt and Kokil
Endtoend is holistic
joining
healthcare.
us from VMware, and we will talk about zero trust network architecture, right? So since the pandemic started, zero trust is one of the most talked about subject. I mean, we have done multiple webinars around zero trust, and if you know the founder of zero trust concept, the name, the buzzword zero trust, where it came from, if you know the name, put it on the chat window. So we in fact did a webinar with the founder of zero trust concept, and the recording is available on the Elite CISO's website. You can go ahead and watch that. um, it is most talked about subject, as I said, but it is very complicated to implement, right? From a concept perspective, we can understand what is zero trust, what benefit it brings, but how do you actually implement it? That's very important, right? So that's what Vinay and Kokil will talk about today. From a high level, what is zero trust and how do you implement it in a complex organization? And then they will also talk about VMware's standpoint in terms of how VMware can help deploy zero trust. So that's on a high level. The topic for today is the time-wise agenda. That's how it is going to look like. Quick welcome for initial 5 minutes. We do not have a quiz today. We do it on Thursdays. So we will have VMware session till about 12:20. And at 12:20, we will break and we will have our question answer session. But there are more folks from VMware as panelists. So if you have any questions, you can put it on a Q&A tab, you can put it on a chat, and then they will answer your questions as well. And at the end, I will share the password to download your participation certificate. We will open registration for next week. Okay. So next week on Saturday, apart from Thursday, right? So Thursdays we do our regular webinars. On Saturday, we have an event with Rubric, and in that webinar, we are going to give away 3 AirPods, right? As somebody said in the Delhi chapter, these are the small joys of life we like to give away. So 3 AirPods will be given away in that webinar. So I will open the registrations for that. And then we will also have Wheel of Fortune for today's session. And the giveaway is Amazon Alexa. The session is being recorded. This will go on YouTube channel. Slides will be available and we will post them as well. Now, the new thing that we are doing today is Elite Twitter. Okay. We have never done it in past. What we are going to do is we are going to have a Twitter contest. Okay. What you got to do is you have to follow Elite CISO's handle on Twitter. So the handle name is @Elite CISOs. You can go to the Twitter and search for it. And then whatever learnings are there, whatever Kokil and team is going to share today, whatever you learn, post that on Twitter and then put hashtags as hashtag Elite CISOs and hashtag Elite Workshop. Okay. Once you put that, the maximum number, right? Whoever posts most of the content, right? There's a bot going on which will track all that. So the person who makes most of the tweets will get one Amazon Alexa. Okay. That's what is high level agenda for today. With this, over to you, Kokil, for the session. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Vikas, and morning all. I'll just go ahead and share my screen. But it's great to see so many people just log in Saturday morning. We will have slight brainstorming going in today, and I would appreciate some questions coming in. Again, as Vikas mentioned, this is about a 75 to 80-minute session today, and the idea is to just bring forward the topic. I saw a lot of answers there about about the person who brought the zero trust concept. Yeah, he was working with Forrester, and I think that concept started from that. But today, I think what we are seeing is that zero trust is becoming more and more relevant in our security architectures when organizations are moving modern apps, when they are moving to multi-cloud. How do we kind of build? And with the advent of so many ransomware attacks happening today, things going digital, remote access becoming a necessity today, I think, for everyone. We will have details into how and what is zero trust architecture, and we will cover just a couple of concepts. 90 minutes is way too small to cover such a large topic, but we'll cover a couple of concepts around visibility and possibly network traffic analysis and NDR, and how do we kind of at VMware are helping customers onboard that journey, right? So that is the overall agenda for today. Quick introduction. Unfortunately, Vinay couldn't join this, but we've got our security expert, Sai. So what I'll do is quickly introduce both of us. I've been associated with the industry for 22 years now, been with VMware for last 10 years. I've been doing network security all my life. Have worked in different countries, spent some time with some of the larger organizations like UBS and Verizon when I was in US. But the idea is, to help customers be advisors, to predominantly look at network and defining security architectures for their environments, right? I'm joined today by Sai. Sai is our security expert.
And all your questions should be answered. Thank you. Thank you, Sangeet.
Right. So Sai is our security expert. I think he spends his weekend doing cycling as the photo resonates, and he's taken time out today to join us. He'll be assisting with some live demos today and great demos. I think each one of you should closely watch those. And of course, he's very, very experienced in the industry. Palo Alto Networks, Cisco, TechM, I think some of the organizations that he's worked with. So Sai, welcome and appreciate your support over the weekend. Quick agenda. I think this is what we will cover in a nutshell in the next 75 to 80 minutes. Some of the trends and challenges that we have around zero trust, NIST, and how did NIST adopt and define a framework for zero trust. So we'll kind of cover those aspects, and then we'll get into couple of, as I said, right, couple of parameters that kind of govern the zero trust. One primary parameter before you get into defining anything, any security policies, is the understanding and visibility of the environment. So how do we gather granular visibility in this multi-cloud world? That's something that we are going to cover with a live demo. We will then get into expand the visibility into analysis, which means how do we kind of have visibility from a network threat traffic perspective, and then convert that into threat analysis, analyze those elements, and then present it back in a user readable format, right? And what we'll do is also demonstrate an attack campaign. I think everyone's heard recently about SolariGate, how post an attack, right, post such a breach, how can we look at minimizing the impact, and how can we then go back and investigate in terms of what has happened, right? So the full campaign of that investigation is something that we will demonstrate. So that's more or less the theme of what we are going to cover. Please post your questions in the FAQ session. We've got our teams who will possibly respond back. If not, we will send across the responses as a follow-up to this session, right? Right. So I think these are in our news almost every day. And recently, I think Times of India, Hindustan Times, all the India newspapers also started covering some of these as headlines. If you've heard about the colonial pipeline breach, right? I think. Sorry.
I think people will have to go on mute. I think maybe some people are talking.
Okay. So I think this attack, there was about, I think, 4.4 million paid as ransomware is what we've seen. This is a oil and gas company out in US, and I think the hackers. This was the Russian-linked cybercrime that had happened. There was a group named DarkSide, I think, that was involved in this attack, And I think close to about 4 million or 4.4 million ransom was demanded. I think hundreds of gigabytes of data was encrypted and was threatened to be leaked. So I think this was there in Bloomberg news last month. Similarly, you will see news around retail chains, around SolarWinds attack, which is the SolarGate I was just talking about. And I think if you read the article from the SolarWinds CEO, right, this was one of the most complex and sophisticated attack, and we all understand the impact of that. We will, in a nutshell, try to cover that campaign. And then the attacks are not limited to this. I think it is moved beyond into companies that have petrochemical plants, companies in Gulf, companies in South Korea. All of that were impacted. And as I said, right, very recently, I think this was there. I think July 5th, Hindustan Times, even Times of India, covered the biggest ransomware attack that was targeted across companies across 17 nations, and this impacted financial services companies, travel and leisure companies, and of course, as you see, the details of ransomware were provided. I think this was again originated from a Russia-linked organization, Revil gang, as they said. But this is the latest that's happening in our world today, right? And as more and more stuff is moving digital, I think we are all getting used to the digital way of doing things. I think this it becomes an important aspect to discuss and then kind of get into architecture of how or framework of how should you plan your security infrastructure, right? As it is said, right? If you look at the many articles and reports, it's actually a matter of when and not how, which means every organization may be under the influence of a ransomware attack, and we build these strategies to kind of go ahead and reduce the impact of these ransomware attacks, or how fast we can recover from these kind of attacks, right? And you can see what is the cost of these data breaches, right? I'll not go into the details. I mean, these are the articles that are readily available on internet. So I'll not get into the details. From a solutions perspective, I think this is a very, very common slide. You must have seen it many times. There are a plethora of security solutions available today. And with all the innovations and all these solutions being made available today, I think what we are seeing is that the breaches still happen, right? I've just posted a photograph of a bicycle here, with all the security in place, but you can still see that the breach happened. The bicycle is not there anymore. And that is how we are seeing most of the companies getting impacted today, right? We have best of the security devices positioned today, but there are still breaches that are happening, right? And if you look at what is happening is, the whole art of security, right? That has always been complex. I think it is one of those security is one of those divisions in a technology organization, I think, which cuts across every vertical or horizontal layer, if you may, right? Leaders, that is, some of you are CISOs, some of you are security experts. I think there is always this puzzle of saying, how do I kind of put together my things? How do I balance the business priorities versus the requirements? How do I manage my vendors? So we are seeing this jigsaw puzzle, and landscape is changing, right? There are too many variables today that you see around, right? If you look at, there is an ask for an application security, there is an ask to protect endpoint. The antiviruses and anti-malware have now evolved to kind of an EDR solution. There is a challenge in terms of skill sets, because people are now moving applications into cloud environments. The network traffic is increasing, and things like NDR are now in place. So with all these challenges in place, right, with digital transformation coming in, I think it is becoming more and more complex, right? And what I've done is kind of try to explain this. I think this is what we had seen our earlier organizations, a very, very traditional model, standard app, web, and DB in a data center. You protect them with a perimeter firewall, and you had a fixed boundary to protect. Over the course of last 3 or 5 years, I think the apps have started to evolve, right? And what you now see is that perimeter of yours has suddenly, or the boundary that was created in a data center has suddenly vanished, right? That has grown because the applications have suddenly moved into cloud environments. They are being converted into microservices. There is advent of containers and all of that, right? So if you look at modern apps, data center has evolved from bare metal servers to virtual machines to containers, and it is a lot more components in the data center. And at the same time, things have moved into the hyperscalers, the likes of AWS, Google, Azure, have started hosting a lot of applications, which is on demand. I think that since our pandemic, I think these companies have been doing extremely well and have helping customers offload a lot of applications to their environments. And that is where we've seen evolve. And then if we talk about the branches, I think today every house has become a branch, right? We all work remotely. And I would say, remote work means working from your home is also now a branch for an organization, right? So how do we kind of then create a boundary? There is no boundary, right? The trusted perimeter that used to be there has completely dissolved. And if you look at the attacks today, I think they have suddenly become more and more complex, right? The surfaces have exploded. There are a lot of surfaces that the attackers can attack. The containers, the cloud environments, the branch offices, or the home devices. And with so many surfaces now, I think the security has become too complex, and I think it has started evading the perimeter, as you would say, right? So if you just look at some of these statistics, right, I think more than 4% of our business emails today have analyzed malicious content, right? And usually those are delivered by standard zip files as sent to an user as an email, and somebody clicking that, and then the malware getting deployed into the environment, and then leveraging or doing lateral movement is the basic form of attack that we've seen. And this basically starts with having some good practices that we need to put in place, right? So how do we then secure this modern enterprise, right? If you look at the branch offices or users, how do we secure them, right? So we've got different elements that we need to look at. Obviously, in today's session, we will not cover the elements. I'll just showcase what are these different elements at a high level. And it is important to go ahead and put across lenses in each of these elements. But the idea is, I need to protect my applications and data. I need to trust my cloud environments. I need to trust my users. What is the level of access that I need to grant, and how much can I trust the device? Because a lot of applications are also accessed today from your mobile devices that possibly are already I would say compromised and are running open softwares. So all of that is something that is a concern for the enterprise, and how do we kind of go ahead and detect. So what should be our strategy? I think from what I have been discussing with a lot of organizations, I think everyone today has a strategy. Usually they are built in silos, which means there is an endpoint team, there is a network team, a security and compliance and risk team, and then there are perspectives and requirements that kind of are not attached, but but are separate than those, right? So what we've typically seen is when we have defined security architectures or frameworks, I think there is too little context. One, there is less visibility in understanding what is there in the environment that I need to protect, right? That is the very basis. I think, yeah, I think we've seen that visibility is not there in a lot many enterprises data centers. Second is, I spoke about silos. There is a team managing server infra, team managing network and endpoint, and then how do you kind of bring all of them together and try to correlate and see what is there. And then lastly, of course, as we saw, too many surfaces to defend, right? We've got different environments that we spoke about, branches, home offices, and all of that. How do we kind of build a policy around that, right? And that kind of lays us into the idea of what is zero trust, right? As most of you are aware, and I think I saw those answers, it was originally developed by Forrester, and the idea was, to move security from the boundaries of the perimeter, which was a very, very specific approach, I would say, because the applications and the data have moved beyond that perimeter. I think the idea was to then come up with a model which will be associated with micro segmentation, as they called, or network segmentation, and next generation firewalls. But there are a lot many things that get involved in zero trust, as I say, right? So let's look at some of these concepts and how some of these frameworks were formed, right? Let's understand the methodology. I think the four standard, if you conceptually look at, I think we've divided it into four standard concepts. What should be the idea when you are defining a zero trust architecture? I think the primary focus should be is that what a business wants to accomplish, right? Security teams should clearly, or the CISO should clearly understand the requirements that the business has, and it will be different for every vertical. It will be different for every organization, right? And it should be baked into the platform, right? So the first is focus on this on the business outcomes. Second is, of course, design it from the inside out, right? As I said, baked into the platform, start to protect the surface, and then design outwards towards where your access would be, where your networks would lend you to be. But the primary thing is look at the surface, bake it inside the surface rather than an afterthought or bolted on approach. It should be built into your framework, right? Third is from an access perspective. I think this is more relevant today. Determine who needs what access. Just last month, I've been interacting with a couple of companies who were under the influence of an attack, and the basis of the attacks were that the admin credentials were leaked. Right now, imagine whatever security devices you have in your infrastructure, if the admin credentials of the most critical components in your infrastructure are leaked, there is no solution in the world that can protect you, right? If you leak the admin credentials. So access is extremely important. And how do you then define granular policies in terms of protecting the environment? And then lastly, of course, there has to be a trace of whatever is happening, right? So inspect everything inside the environment. Logging is extremely important when it comes to investigation and forensics and how did the attack start. I think it is extremely important, right? So what we will do is in today's session, I think we will cover a couple of aspects. One, when I say design inside out, how do we get visibility into the environment? And of course, from an investigation and forensics, how do we kind of leverage that visibility and analysis and convert them into the meaningful data, right? 5 steps to how we can go ahead and adopt. One, of course, is start with the surface, bake in security into the surface that you need to protect. You can map the various flows within the environment and see how the traffic is within the environment, whether it is going from a device to the applications, user to the application, whether it is going on different network fabrics, whether those are on-prem, whether those are cloud, into the branch, and all of that. Third is, of course, build the actual zero trust architecture, right? Which means don't trust anyone within the environment. Even two components sitting next to each other should not be trust. I think that was the earlier basis that we used to always define security. There was something called as trusted zone, untrusted zone, demilitarized zone. I think every workload today in your data center should be treated as a demilitarized zone, right? Don't trust anyone, right? And that is how you define the zero trust policies. And then lastly, of course, you monitor and maintain. That is extremely important. You need to monitor what is defined, where there is a gap, what are the deviations, and then how do you maintain and grow as you add more and more applications and complexity into the environment, right? And all of this is today pretty well defined. I would say in some standards that someone like NIST has released, right? This is there is a zero trust architecture that was published, by National Institutes of Standard and Technology.
Temporary, now it is full.
So that was, the cyber security COE actually defined this, and the NIST frameworks puts, this into a very, very meaningful way. Identify what's happening, protect those workloads that you want to protect, detect what's happening in the environment, respond back to those attacks, and then in the event of an attack, how do you recover, right? So, this is something that that can be shared across the reports that are published by NIST on cybersecurity. I've just posted some pictures, but we can share this link. I think most of you would have already access to this, and the 5 things that we just spoke about, right? 5 factors or functions that we just spoke about. That basically defines the complete zero trust architecture, right? So identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover are well defined. I will, of course, not go into the details. I don't want to make this a more theoretical session, but the idea is you can look at third-party reports and manuals that are published here, like NIST, and then define your architectures, right? Some more details, I think, that were mentioned and published as part of the abstract. Of course, I've just noted down some key points. The whole idea is, when you are defining policies for users, don't trust them, don't grant them access. It should be a very, very controlled access. What this also mentions is that perimeter security has become insufficient, right? So no matter how beefed up your perimeter security is, I think the ask is clearly to go ahead and control the lateral movements in our data centers, and then you have to design, keeping in mind different I would say points within your data center, right? Workloads should be treated differently than users and devices. Environments that are very critical, like financial organizations and do a lot of digital transactions, should be treated differently than the manufacturing units, and that is how you kind of define, right? These are some of the definitions. Again, I'll not go into the details, but the idea is never trust, always verify, build DMZ for every workload in your environment. And again, this is just a set of guiding principles, right? You have to look at these principles, but define your own strategy, and that has to be different for every organization. So you cannot have a template that will be applicable for everyone, right? It has to be different, but you can leverage these frameworks to kind of set and define the guiding principles of how you should basically adopt zero trust, right? there are 5 tenets in this zero trust. So if you go into the details of this, they have clearly defined the different tenets, and I would say put them in different buckets. Is look at device, look at user, look at network, application, and of course the data, right? So there are these 5 buckets that you need to look at, and then once you have a policy framework around these 5 buckets, and I've mentioned some of the details, right, in terms of device trust, how would you maintain device inventory, how would you do compliance, how would you do device authentications, 2-factor authentications, and all of that. In terms of users, again, multi-factor authentication, conditional access. In terms of network, start doing micro-segmentation, lateral movement protection, encryption in some cases. When you move to applications, I think look at who should access this particular applications, how should you isolate, capabilities like single sign-on. And then when you look at data, I think the data integrity is extremely important. So how do you do that? Solutions like DLPs or data classification solutions come into effect, right? So 5 different buckets that you need to look at when you speak about security. And then on top of that is a common layer, as you see, where you need to add monitoring, visibility, analysis on top of that, the data that is collected, which can then include orchestration and automation layers, right? So that's the idea. Great. Let's jump into how do you implement a zero trust, right? Again, it's different. It is something that cannot be templatized. It is a journey, right? It is not something that will be mentioned even in these guides. To implement zero trust, it sometimes takes organization years, and they start very small, look at the critical components, and then kind of expand from there, right? From a VMware perspective, I think this is how we've been working with customers. I think the whole notion of zero trust, and we saw that is to start inside out, right? Look at your platform, look at your surface that you want to protect, applications that will run on top of these surfaces. You look at that. What is the application and data that I need to protect that is running on these surfaces, whether it is on private cloud, public clouds, whether it is containerized, running as virtual machines, bare metal servers, and then kind of put lenses across different elements like devices, workloads, networks, and people. People are extremely important, right? So put across visibility and cameras across each of these 4 different controls that I would say, and then kind of build a security policy and a layer of visibility analysis and orchestration around these things, right? So the 4 elements or 5 elements as mentioned, I think we've combined the data, apps and data, the 5th element in between, that is the most critical, but the 4 other elements where you need to put across these lenses, we can look at those in detail: devices, workloads, people, and networks. I think from today's perspective, from today's session, I think what we will do is focus on visibility and some level of network. Obviously, the other aspects can be covered in follow-up sessions or something, but I think given the time constraint, let's just focus on visibility and how do we then do analysis on top of this visibility, right? So yeah, if we talk about visibility, right, why is visibility important today? If you look at this picture, right, it kind of tells us the story. A nice picture, someone taking a dip in the pool, and everything looks perfect, right? But when you go into more granular details, when you have more visibility about the environment, you will find out why there is a problem in this, right? And that is why visibility is extremely important, right? I'll just speak about some of the solutions that from a VMware perspective, but there are a lot many solutions in the industry today that provide you the end-to-end visibility, right? Now, I'm just taking this as an example. Again, this is no marketing slide. But just taking this example because I want to demonstrate this this particular product so that you understand, why is visibility important and what is it that we want from visibility, right? So today we have different surface areas as we looked at that carries our data, where the traffic flows, right? That is your virtual environment, VM environment that is based on hypervisors. That could be vSphere, KVM, Nutanix, and you're running your workloads. Then there is next generation of modern applications, containers that run. Those could be running on-prem in bare metals or in virtualization form factors, or they could also be running in cloud environments like Azure and AWS and Google, right? And then there is the set of physical devices, which comprises of our switching and routing and load balancers and firewalls. And then there is the branch offices, right? That is every user's home users, branch users, and all of that. How do you kind of have an end-to-end visibility into all of these elements, right? So, that provides you the depth of what is happening in the environment. That is extremely important, right? So traffic visibility into these devices, application monitoring, and then what we can do is add on top of that, things like automation in terms of discovering applications when they land into your data center. How can we automatically discover applications? And then once the discovery is done, how can we do analytics on top of that, right? To understand what are my top flows, what is the latency in my environment? Is there an anomaly, something that is supposed to work in this way but isn't working in this way? How do we look at that, right? And there are some tools in the industry today that have also gone to the extent of providing real-time visibility, real-time flow visibility. And when you have real-time flow visibility, they will automatically look at the flows, create application groups, which means what tier of components are talking to which tier, and then help you form policies, right? So there are some tools in the industry today that will help you do this. There are some OEMs who can help you do that, right? So what I'll do is take a quick pause, and we will jump into a live demo. So I'll hand it over to Sai, who will take us through one of the visibility tools that many customers are using today. This tool is from VMware, of course, because we have access to these tools. But the intent is to show what all things does a visibility comprise of. I just spoke about those. Let's see them in action, right? So Sai, over to you.
Okay, if I may intervene and interrupt. Sure. So your session has been amazing, right? There may be some questions people have. So instead of waiting till the end, let's take a couple of questions now and then we get into demo. Is that okay with you?
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, let's take some questions. Sure.
Yeah, I think there is one question posted by Dilip. If you go to the chat and see the question Dilip has posted, and let's address that.
Okay, how would this discovery help pick up cloud subscriptions created for same organization by multiple business groups without coming via central procurement or IT teams? So if I understand this correctly, you're asking, can I auto discover the cloud accounts that are created? Is that the right question?
That's right, Kopil. What I'm looking at is if LTI as an organization today has a subscription or a tenant available at Azure, for example, and if there are some business units or marketing groups in our organization that directly go and purchase additional subscriptions or tenants in the same cloud, how would we be able to check that and consolidate them for visibility?
Yeah, see, I think most of the tools that I've seen, I mean, when you talk of visibility, I think this is about you manually defining those accounts, and then the visibility will start into those accounts, right? But your ask is, how do I kind of find out what are the subscriptions?
Exactly, the shadow accounts, because the ones which are known to me, I definitely know how to control them or track them or detect them.
Yes.
The ones which are not known to me is the main challenge point over here in today's scenario for all of us.
Okay. Yeah, I will have to, I mean, I don't have a ready-made answer today. I haven't seen tools within VMware that can help you do that today. Honestly, the tool that we will showcase is basically where you define your subscription and then we kind of monitor your workloads. But I get your point. I take this point and possibly something that I'll check back with my teams to see if there is anything of this sort in the roadmap or in the market that can help us do that.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Dilip. Okay, there is another question by Venkateshwaran. I think, will discovery work across all OS, including iOS, Windows, Linux, various flavors of Unix, etc.? Yes, it will also work across a set of physical devices. Obviously, it depends on how we do this. There are some tools that do analysis or collection basis the flow. Those could be standard net flows or IP fixed data today. Some could be based on SNMP. So yeah, if those things can be configured, I think there is every chance we can capture flows and do discovery across all the flavors. Any other questions? I think.
Yeah, I don't see any other question. Guys, if you have any other question and you want to ask now, go ahead, unmute yourself and you can ask. Otherwise, we can wait till the end as well.
Sure.
So going once, going twice, I think there's nobody to ask questions. So over to Sai for demo.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kokil. Thanks, Vikas. I'm quickly going to share the screen with the hope that my screen is visible.
And it is visible.
Okay, great. Yeah, so thank you, friends, for being in this call, and thank you, Kokil, for setting the stage exactly the way we all expected. So the theme of this demo is going to revolve around visibility and about how this tool can help you plan your security infrastructure by discovering flows on its own, by discovering application on its own, and more importantly, how this tool is going to help you with enhanced troubleshooting, right? When I say enhanced troubleshooting, it actually means how are you going to proactively optimize your network to minimize application latency, probably improve performance, and so on, right? So this is the landing page of our tool, which we call as a vRealize Network Insight. And from the landing page itself or from the landing dashboard itself, you get a good amount of information which can be used as your management dashboard, right? You get information around what has been the number of threshold violations that has happened in the environment, what all checklists from an NSX configuration per se has failed, what is the number of east-west flows that you have in the environment, and so on, right? And from an open problems perspective, you get a bunch of problems that the system has automatically generated from the system. And if I just do if I just click on the plus mark, it is also going to blow up this the alert, and it is going to give us meaningful data about the alerts or the problems that the system has encountered, right? And getting back to the main theme around visibility, around the flows, the applications, and so on, the strength of this tool is that this is completely an agentless deployment, which works across multi-cloud, right? So if I just click on micro-segmentation as my theme, right? Yeah, it gives me an option by which I can discover all the flows across the environment for a specific duration or so, and when I click on analyze, it is going to give me a comprehensive information about the types of flows which are happening around the environment, and it can be grouped depending on our requirement, right? So if I have to start from the rightmost part, this tool is going to give me a complete understanding of the different traffic distributions across the environment, right? What are the types of east-west flows? how much of the traffic is switch traffic, how much of the traffic is routed traffic, how much of the traffic is VM to VM traffic, and what is the amount of internet flows or the north-south flows that is happening in the environment. In addition to that, it also gives you the understanding of what are the top destination ports which are being consumed as a part of the flow, right? So if you see here, there is port number 445, HTTPS port 8080, 3036, and so on, right? So the way our customers are consuming this information is to understand whether these ports are the legitimate destination ports, or some of the ports are is actually under attack, right? And if I want to do some amount of analysis about what's happening on a particular port number, or the particular flow and so on, I just click on the number of flows for that particular destination, and it is going to throw up a complete new world, which is going to give me comprehensive end-to-end visibility about what's happening to that particular flow, right? So if you see here, it is giving me information about the source, it is giving me information about the destination, the total amount of flows, what is the network flow rate. And when I just click on this plus button or the expand button, it is giving me even more information about where is the source VM residing, where is the destination VM residing, is this part of a routed flow or a part of an switch flow, what is the port number, what is the protocol number, and if there are any firewall rules configured for that particular flow to happen. You also get a high level understanding of the different firewall rules which has been configured for that particular environment, right? So this is going to be the single source of, this can be the single source of truth for the network operations team, for the for the SOC operations team, for them to understand what really is happening in their environment, right? So this was a flow which was captured inside the data center, right? So if you want to understand what are the different flows which are happening across particular VLANs, across particular applications, and so on and so forth, what you can do is that this donut view is going to give you a comprehensive view about how that particular VLAN or how that particular application is communicating with the other entities in the environment, right? So for example, if I have to gather information about, say, VLAN 10 VLAN 1049 for this example, I just click on key focus, and it is going to give me a end-to-end visibility about what are the different other VLANs or the other components or the other elements of the data center that that the components of this VLAN is trying to communicate with, right? And if I see, if I go by the legends, the green indicate the bidirectional flow, the blue indicate the outgoing flow, and the amber or the orange color indicates the incoming flow, right? So now if I have to go deep into understanding how is this particular VLAN 1049 communicating with this particular VLAN 1536 for that matter, I just click on that that particular flow, and it is giving me a comprehensive information about what are the different flows that the system has seen in a bidirectional way, right? And in addition to giving you information about the flows, it is also recommending you high level firewall policies or high level firewall rules which can be consumed by the security administrative team or by the security operations team, right? In addition to giving you this information, this tool can also act as a proactive method of understanding whether this particular flow or whether this particular destination should be allowed for this particular communication to happen, right? So if this is not a part of an allowed flow or a legitimate flow, the operations team or the security team can get back to the application vendor and tell them that, hey, application owner, these are the different flows that I'm seeing in this in the environment for this particular application. As per the application, should this be part of an allowed flow or not, right? And if the application owner says that, for example, 443 should not be allowed as a part of this particular flow. The security team or the networking team can take subsequent action from a security standpoint. Right now, now as I said, there are multiple groupings that are allowed. Right now, now we saw the grouping from an VLAN perspective. The same can happen from an application perspective. Right. So if there are multiple applications configured in the environment, and if they have been discovered as a part of this tool, you can apply the same logic and understand how the different applications talks to the other applications or the different tiers within the application in a completely granular format. Right. So the next point, that I'm going to take you is to, and in addition to having multiple dashboards that comes as a part of the solution, this solution also supports a Google-like search. Right. So say, for example, I want to understand what is the different types of flows which are happening outside to inside. And if I want to check for the flows which is happening from a specific country, say, for example, Russia. Right. So I just start typing flow, and it is going to predictively let me know what is the next keyword. Right. So I want to check for some flows which are happening from a particular country, where source country equals, say, for example, Russia. I just click on enter, and it is going to give me all the information, where the originating country is Russia, and the destination is some part of a data center. And depending upon this flow, you can take corrective action if you expected Russia never to be a part of your source country. Right. So this tool, in addition to providing all this information, this tool can be of great importance, so that all the IT teams, including the network team or the security team, can really be in a proactive work in a proactive manner rather than being in a reactive manner. Right. So now with this, what I'm going to do is that I am go and the same fundamentals, what we spoke about, can also be extended to the multi-cloud environment or the multi-scalers that we are aware of. Right. So in this example, we have added the Amazon Web Services as a data source to this tool, and with this, with Amazon being added, you get a comprehensive information about how are the different components, or how are the different elements in AWS talking amongst themselves, maybe within the VPC, or if you have if you have an hybrid kind of a setup, wherein some components are in the private setup and some components are in the public setup. All this end-to-end visibility is going to be possible as a part of this flow. Right. So in this example, I want to understand how are these two components talking to each other. Right. So my traffic is leaving my on-prem data center, and it is crossing all these various components which has been configured as a part of the data source, and the data is reaching my destination. Right. So if you see here, and if I just click on this firewall component, it is going to let me know what are the different firewall rules which has been configured to facilitate this kind of an end-to-end access. Right. And similarly, if I go to the host part, it is also going to let me know how does my host component on AWS looks like. Right. I hope this opens up. Okay, right. So these are my different security groups. These are my different firewalls which are configured as a part of my AWS environment. And again, if I click on a particular flow, it is going to blow up, and it is going to give me all the information which corresponds to that particular flow. Right. And from a data source perspective, or from an entities perspective, these are the various entities that we support, right? It could be an Cisco ACI switch. It could be the hardware infrastructure of Arista. It could be the various components that comes either from AWS or from Azure or from GCP for that matter. And all the and from an security perspective, it could be the components of Checkpoint. It could be the components of Palo Alto Networks, and so on and so forth. Right. So what this tool actually gives you, that it goes beyond the VMware infrastructure, and this can be your heterogeneous, it supports an heterogeneous environment, which can be a combination of private cloud. It can be a combination of public cloud, and if you want to use the best of both worlds, it also supports the hybrid cloud kind of an architecture. Right. So from a troubleshooting perspective, or from from understanding the different flows that are happening between the different tiers in the application, we have something called as a path topology. What this path topology is going to do is that it is going to let you know a complete architecture, or it is going to trace the path at real time and let you know how the source workload and how the destination workload is communicating between themselves. Right. So if you see here, we have configured it is showing you multiple paths, and this was between the private cloud and the public cloud. Similarly, it can be extended only to your public cloud or to your private cloud, and so on. Right. So if I take this example, in this example, there is a source VM which is inside the data center, and there is a destination VM again inside the data center, and I want to trace the path and understand what are the different elements of the data center that these two source and destination are crossing over. Right. And if you see here, it has given me while these two VMs are on the same host or on the same environment, it has crossed multiple VLANs. It has crossed a physical device, which could either be an switch or a router or a load balancer probably. Yeah. So this is an FI networks load balancer, and it has reached the destination. Right. And before reaching the destination, it has crossed two firewalls. And if I click on this firewall, it is also giving me all the different firewall rules which has been configured as a part of that flow. Right. And Kokil also spoke about application delivery, application discovery. So this is how the application discovery screen looks like. So here we can either manually configure those applications, or we also have a facility to automatically discover the application based on certain parameters. Right. So for the sake of this example, I'm just going to click on one application, and the application is going to let me know everything probably about that particular application, as to know what are the different constructs that makes up the application, what are the different flows that the application is seeing, what are the different problems that have happened as a part of the application, and so on. Right. So if you see here, this is a completely distributed application spread across the globe. And if I want to specifically know about what is happening for the application components which are at Detroit, I just put that on focus, and I just click on either the components or on the flows, and it is going to let me know all the information about the various flows that have happened from Detroit to the other location, and vice versa. Right. And if you want to have a comprehensive information about all the different flows that has happened across, I just click on the flows, and it is going to blow up, and it is going to let me know what are the different types of flows which has happened as a part of that particular communication. Right. And if I want to understand what are the different problems that have that the system has encountered, I just click on those different the problems, and it is also going to let me know if there is some threshold breach. There has been some issues in terms of latency, in terms of packet loss, and so on and so forth. All those parameters will be caught as a part of this this tool. Right. And the highlight of this tool is that, as I said earlier, in addition to gathering information about what's happening in a vSphere environment or an virtualized environment, it can go beyond that, right? So it can give you information about all the containerized workloads that you would be having in the environment, or probably if you have a lot of workloads that you have on the public cloud, it could be AWS, it could be Azure, and so on and so forth. All those data is also going to get captured as a part of this application, right? So if I have to summarize what this tool is all about, so this tool is going to help you gain network visibility across clouds, right? And in addition to that, this tool is going to help you do application discovery and visibility. It is going to help you gain visibility into the applications, and it is going to help you construct meaningful insights. That's one of the benefits of this tool. And on top of that, you can leverage this tool for having granular visibility to actually speed up your micro segmentation or your zero trust journey with minimum problems across the environment. And last but not the least, it is going to help you with enhanced troubleshooting, so that as we spoke about, you are in a more proactive mode rather than being in a reactive mode, right? So this is what I wanted to share in this quick demo of our visibility tool. And over to you, Kokil.
Sure. Thanks, Sai. I thought that was great. Stay put. I think we've got another demo that will be followed, and we already have some ask for it. Obviously, we'll get into what we do with all of this data, collect this data, and then kind of analyze and present something back that is more relevant, right? So let us get into that. So the next aspect was in terms of, how do we kind of go into the advanced threat protection, take all the visibility that we already have, flows that we've already collected, take all of that. And I already saw some questions on legitimate ports. How would you detect that something is anomalous, something is not right? And then how do we make a more constructive data out of that, right? So we have one more demo to follow up where we will cover this. I've got just some slides to kind of introduce that topic. Clearly, I think if you look at the advanced threat protection today, I think the advanced or enhancements that have come right today, we've got signatures that are tailored to identify specific threats. I think each one of you has or should have been using the intrusion detection and prevention technologies. But if you look at the recent announcements with intrusion detection and prevention, there are different ways it is architected now. It could be that the IDPS engine could be running in every host that is hosting your applications, virtual machines, and it is completely distributed. And there are some advantages to that, right? The second aspect we look at is predominantly to have a sandboxing environment. And I think most of you would also have worked on sandboxing. Again, this is basically to provide static and dynamic analysis. If there are known threats, it'll kind of look at that. If there are malwares, malicious documents, it'll kind of look at and detect those. But it also helps you to detect zero-day threats, right? Threats that do not have signatures but are anomalous. It'll identify what is abnormal within the environment and can provide those. The third is, of course, with the help of traffic analytics, right? The network traffic analytics. We want to identify the unwanted network behaviors, right? So that can also help you in zero-day detections. But the whole idea is that if there are threat actors in your environment, right, the idea is to understand how would they attempt to break into a network, how are they moving laterally within the network, or are they doing any exfiltration and stolen, is there any information that's stolen and being pushed out to their CNC or whatever. And if you look at all of these put together, right, the IDS, the network sandbox, the NTA, you kind of collect all of this traffic and put that into an NDR, which is, of course, the network detection and response systems. It will aggregate all of these flows and alerts, right, and provide I think within a high level picture of what is happening in the whole environment, right? So this is more like doing an analysis with leveraging AI tools, machine learning, and then giving you a nice picture of what is happening within the environment, right? So this is exactly where technologies are moving today, and extremely important in environments that you build security framework for. I just spoke about IDS, IPS, and how it could be differently architected. We've always known a central way, a central appliance doing IDPS, and we know there are a lot of false positives that we always get. If there is more traffic, then there are computational overheads. And so the idea is to architect in a different way. As I said, leverage the platform, leverage your surface where your applications are running, and then what happens is, if I have a distributed engine today to kind of run the intrusion detection and prevention systems, I will be able to curate the signatures and understand what is running on top of these platforms, and only provide signatures that are relevant to those applications. So I'm reducing computational overheads on the hosts. It is distributed, which means at a time, the IDPS engine can cater to a larger set of applications. And then, of course, because there are less signatures to be matched against, there will be a lot number of fewer false positives, right? And just as an example, right, this is just an analogy. The numbers may not be right, but if you just look at the analogy, let's assume there is an application MySQL running on host A and Apache running on host B. Then I would just have 26 signatures curated that are relevant for MySQL and just push those, versus about 100 plus signatures for Apache. But the whole list of 13K signatures need not be applied to this whole environment, right? So that's the idea of having a distributed IDPS, just like there was a concept of distributed firewalling. And I think today there are many vendors who support distributed firewalling, right? Vendors like Palo Alto, Checkpoint, and others. And of course, VMware has its own solution. Cisco has its own solution. So the distributed firewalling will now be enhanced into IDPS, and that's how you detect legitimate, malicious traffic on legitimate ports that are already allowed on your firewalls, right? And of course, this can provide a lot of benefits. If you look at sandboxing systems, I think today there are a lot of announcements that have come into sandboxing systems. If you look at traditional sandboxes, I think just a fraction of instructions are being looked at. But if you look at more enhanced sandboxes today, I think they will also have functionalities where they can perform evasive checks. They can understand. Today the attacks are so very, or the techniques are so very enhanced that they can find out if they are being run in a sandbox, right? So and they can avoid themselves, right? So to avoid those evasive checks, I think there are the next generation sandbox that are used. And then on the NTA piece, I think what is important is to understand there will be loads and loads of data. I think if you look at the number of events that an NTA would generate, there will be thousands of events, right? So you have machine learning models that look at traffic and have automatic detections for normal activities, and then you have there are supervised threat models that can also look at false positives, right? And then combine both of them, comb through this massive set of events that are generated to actually reveal a very, very relevant threat activity, and something that we will showcase in the demo where one of the solutions that we've been working on helps us do that, right? So from thousands of events, from a mass of data that is collected, we then come down, comb through that, and find very, very relevant data, and then correlate that into the intrusion, right? So that is the idea. I think it allows us to connect the dots across multiple assets across time, right? You can always collect it over a time, and then produce the whole report that kind of shows us the progress of the whole campaign, right? So that's something that that is extremely important. Correlation of that threat, what is anomalous. So you can see in this screenshot, but we will let Sai cover this more in the demo, right? So you can see about 215 GB of data, but then eventually correlated into campaigns and just 12 campaigns, right? So that is how it can go ahead and correlate and generate us this report, visually provide us details on all of the things that happen in that campaign. And it basically ties to the MITRE ATT&CK framework that we are looking at, right? It can basically go and detect all of these, right? So that's the idea. I think if you look at today's security framework, I think the capabilities should basically help you, find out all of these tactics, the attack techniques that are used, and kind of provide more details in terms of what has happened, and also prevent in most of the cases, right? So we will jump into the demo. Again, that's a thunder that I don't want to steal from Sai. But before we jump into the demo, in the interest of time, Sai, I'll just quickly showcase. I think one of the campaigns that Sai wants to show is also around the recent Solari Gate. I'll just visually show you the example, and then we can look at the whole campaign in Sai's demo. But the idea was, if you look at what happened at Solari Gate or SolarWinds, this was of course not the actual attack, but something that is simulated. What happened initially, and then how did the exfiltration happen? There was CNC, Cobalt Strike CNC, then and then that was all related to the internal movement that happened. So how did the whole campaign go about? This is the visual screenshot of how the tool detects what happened, when happened, and you can actually double click into each of these to understand. But it kind of detected the whole threat, right? So this is something that Sai possibly will demonstrate us with sandboxing in place, with NDA in place. How did you can go ahead and provide protection for this kind of attacks. And there are various elements that are placed of what we covered, the advanced threat protection modules like the NTA, the IDS and IPS systems, the sandboxing systems, and how they can help correlate and give us the whole details of the campaign, right? So I'll take a pause there. We will jump to Sai, who will quickly take us to a short 10-minute demo, and then we'll come back and summarize. So Sai, over to you.
Thanks, Kopil. Okay, I will again start sharing my screen. Okay, I hope it's visible again.
Yes.
Right. So friends, this is the dashboard of the NTA NDR solution that Kopil was talking about, and this system comprises of various components. Starting with some lightweight edge sensors, which are placed at strategic locations across the data center. And in addition to that, there are a few specific components which takes care of the sandboxing activity, which takes care of the network traffic analysis activity. And if we have enabled network detection and response, this complete solution can be integrated with the existing SIM solutions or the source solutions or the native next generation firewalls or the IPS solutions that the customers are already having in their environment. So what you can actually get is a synchronized response or an synchronized security solutions, where all the intelligence will come from this NDR platform, and depending upon your response action, you can take a response in the environment. Right. So this is the overview dashboard that the system has pulled up, and it gives us an understanding of the various sensors that are running in the environment. Since this is an hosted environment, you will be seeing most of the sensors deployed on AWS. But in an enterprise environment, it can be a combination of sensors deployed on public cloud and sensors deployed in your on-prem data center, right? And it also gives you a management level dashboard about the different infections that the system has captured over a period of time. So you see, the real infection that has happened on the environment. There could be some suspicious activity that the system has captured, and it also lets you know what are the different benign activities that the system has encountered. And from an infection perspective, the suspicious activities perspective, these are the different threats that the system has come across, and it is also giving a distribution about how these threats are spread across the environment, right? And in addition to that, it is going to give us a high level understanding of the different traffic that the system has processed, what are the different protocols that the system has come across. And it is also going to give us a good amount of information about what are the different detection events that the system has captured, right? So if I just click on one of the events randomly, and now this is going to blow up the entire event, and it is going to give us a lot of meaningful data about why this has been captured as an event or as an incident, right? So if you see here, this alert has been generated because this traffic pattern has matched a particular network signature, which is comparable to a command and control kind of an threat, right? And in addition to that, it gives you information about the threat class. It gives you information about when was it last seen in the environment, for how long did this particular event persist, and it gives us information about the source, about the destination, and if it has crossed your perimeter boundary, it also gives you information about the destination IP and where that IP belongs to, right? From the flag, you can make out that the destination was in Germany, and it could be either an command and control, or it could be somewhere where the where exfiltration of data is happening, and so on and so forth. And from the signatures, it gives you information about why was it categorized as an command and control communication, right? The IDS signatures are going to let us know all the information about why this particular event or why this particular flow was categorized as an IDS event, which can be subsequently used by the SecOps team, right? So now, in addition to the overview dashboard, if you go to the network dashboard, this is where the real juice of the solution lies, right? So it gives you information about the various device types used in the environment. It talks about the various operating systems, the different services that the system has encountered, and so on, right? And in addition to that, the important point that Kokil was making is how we intelligently use a combination of unsupervised machine learning and supervised machine learning, wherein we are able to provide high fidelity alerts, wherein from a data of around 46.4 GB, which was captured over a period of 7 days. By using all this combination that we spoke about, the system has come to a conclusion that there are around 5 threat campaigns which has been encountered in this environment, right? And we will be going deep into one of those campaigns, the one Kokil spoke about. And if I go down, it also gives me a global event map about where these campaigns are, or where this event are typically coming from, right? If I click on this, it is the some of the binary files were downloaded somewhere from the US. The command and control emoted threads destination again lies somewhere in the US, and there has been some suspicious network activities happened somewhere in France, and so on and so forth, right? So what this tool is going to give you is that it is going to give you a complete threat visibility starting from the endpoint till the network and even to the destination, right? So with the combination of all this information, what the SecOps team or the organization is going to do is that now they have complete anomalous behavior from an network standpoint, from an protocol standpoint, and even from an endpoint standpoint, right? So what we are going to do now is that now we'll quickly jump into the into an actual campaign, right, which is the Sunburst campaign, right? So if you see here, this is one of the campaigns which touched almost all the attack stages in the MITRE attack framework, right? And one of the gentlemen in the call had asked what is the example wherein a legitimate port like 53 was used for data exfiltration, right? Sunburst as an attack or Sunburst as an campaign is an example where data exfiltration happened on port number 53, right? It was a combination of DNS tunneling and a combination of DGS which were developed, and data exfiltration happened through this means, right? So in this in this screen you can see the different threats which were encountered as a part of this campaign. So there was some files, so weaponized DLLs were downloaded as a part of this campaign. There was a Cobalt attack strike, there was a Sunburst, and there were a few suspicious activities that happened in the environment, which is reminiscent of an lateral movement kind of an activity, right? And from a threat perspective, it gives you understanding of what are the different hosts which were under the purview of this threats. And if I click on this particular red color donut where the impact has been high, this is the main host which where these files were downloaded, and this particular host acted as a pivot through which lateral movement typically happened, right? So and if I have to compare this with the different attack and MITRE attack framework, so there was delivery which happened on a particular host. There was a command and control activity which also happened on a particular host, and there were lateral movement that happened on couple of hosts inside the data center, right? And from an attack blueprint perspective, right, this gives me a complete visibility or an complete blueprint about what are the different stages and what typically happened as a part of the campaign, and which was also shown in Kokil screen, right? So now if I want to have some information about what is the different file types that were downloaded, I just click on that particular file type and I click on information, and it is going to let me know what was that typical file that was downloaded, and which was the which was the alternate site from where this particular file was downloaded. Similarly, if I want to have some information about this particular lateral movement activity, I just click on that particular threat class, and it is going to give me a good amount of information about what happened as a part of that particular threat class, right? So now after this blueprint, if I want to understand which are the different hosts that were under the purview of this attack and what are the different threats that were observed on that particular host, this is going to give us all that information, and it is also going to tie back to the attack stages as a part of the MITRE attack framework, right? So if you see here, this was the epicenter of the attack, wherein the files were downloaded. There were a host of attacks that were done along with Sunburst, which was a data exfiltration attempt which was done from this host, and there was also suspected lateral movement activities which were observed on this host, and that is typically tied to the MITRE attack framework, right? So now if I want to go to timelines, right? Yeah, so this is this is a problem where cookies. This is a problem with cookies, right? Yeah, so so in this a timeline view, what you typically get is you get a comprehensive information information about all the different stages which has happened as a part of the attack, right? So if there was a sunburst kind of an attack, you can completely expand, and you are going to get complete details about what actually happened as a part of that sunburst threat, right? So if you click on the lateral movement or the suspicious RDP event, it is going to blow up and give you all the information about what typically happened as a part of that particular event, right? So what this tool typically gives you, it gives you comprehensive used by your forensic team to have a deep analysis about what probably would have happened as a part of that campaign, right? In addition to that, Kokil spoke about the sandboxing environment that we have as a part of the solution, and we have we support both the models wherein you can manually submit files, and you also have a provision where the system has got the capability of automatically submitting files, right? So what you do typically is that you just click on the submit button, and I have a real malware on my environment, which I'm going to upload it at real time. And in a couple of in a couple of seconds, depending upon the size of the file, it is going to upload the file, it is going to analyze the file, and it is going to give a verdict, right? So if you see here, this file has been analyzed at real time, and it has given this particular malware file a score of 100, right? And if you want to understand why a score of 100 was given, just click on the report, and it is going to give you a comprehensive information about what particularly happened as a part of that file, and why was it why was the verdict given as malicious, right? So it has generated a MD5 value. It has given all the information about that particular file. Why was it categorized as a malicious file? What is that antivirus class, and what is the antivirus family, and so on. And if you want to go deep into understanding what happened as a part of the overall analysis on multiple OS platforms, right? So you can even do that. So if you see here, this is a different analysis that has happened on that particular file in our sandbox environment, right? Again with the combination of static analysis and dynamic analysis, what the system has automatically done is that it has completely detonated that particular malicious file in the controlled environment, and all the activities from an operating system level, from an OS level, from a memory level, and so on. It has done a complete analysis of what typically has happened in the environment, and this is the overall analysis overview, right? So in combination of being identified as an Trojan code, using our last line threat intelligence cloud, it has also done that particular malware file has also done so many activities on that particular environment, which gives the system a clear indication that this is indeed a malicious file, and depending upon the company's policies and rules and regulations, you can either create an alert event for this particular finding, or you can go ahead and block this particular file or this particular activity by the various integrations that we spoke in the beginning, right? And in addition to that, I'll just
Yes, quick time check. We are going to run out of time. It's almost 12:29.
Okay. So so in the interest of time, this is what I wanted to share with the larger team. And sorry for slightly going overboard. And over to you, Kokil.
Sure.
Great, thanks. You can still take a couple of minutes if you have.
Sorry, I'll take 2 minutes. I'll take 2 minutes and then hand it over to you, Vikas. Sorry. I think people will extend by 5 minutes. Sorry, but I just wanted to summarize, and there is a last marketing slide that I just want to bring in. So we've been speaking in terms of everything that is predominantly security today. And the example that Sai gave, right, is quickly, how do we kind of create a strategy around that, have a firewall in place as step one, enhance that capabilities with signature-based detections, intrusion detection, and prevention systems as step two that can help us detect, things like Metasploit that was running or anomalies in RDP connection, and then kind of go into step 3 where we do a more advanced protection with NDR, things like NTA and anti-malware coming into the picture. What Sai just showcased, right? So that is how we kind of build the security estate to protect an attack like that. And just to summarize, right, as I said, zero trust journey, it is actually a journey, and from a VMware perspective, I think we are happy to partner along with you and understand more details and help you build an architecture. We've got our experts. I think Bisham has been responding to most of you on the chat window. Sai is one of our guys who's locally available and is a security expert, and then we've got other team members, so we can definitely help you in that. And as next steps, if anyone wants to kind of have a more deep dive detailed sessions purely from a VMware perspective and understand VMware solutions, we are happy to conduct masterclass sessions, conduct assessments for your environments, and then kind of help you build the whole zero trust solution, right? So with that, appreciate all your time spent over the weekend here. Appreciate your patience and thanks for all the questions. Vikas, back to you. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kokil. Thanks, Sai. Excellent session. From the Q&A perspective, I think let's take 2 questions, okay? And this should not be on chat. You have to come live, unmute yourself and ask questions, because it's been an excellent session. I'm sure people will have a lot of questions. So we can take 2 live questions. And for others, what you can do is you can type your questions. VMware team will compile. We will get the answers and we will upload them along with the presentation and video on Elite CISO's website. Sounds good? Great. So let's see who wants to ask question live. You have to unmute yourself and ask. So I don't see any questions.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Who is it? Please introduce.
I'm from PNB. See, we are having various solutions. Same. There are network monitoring systems. It is not clear where this fits in. Can VMware team give more insights into this so that the positioning can be proper?
Sure, I can take that. So again, the understanding was we covered different solutions, but the idea was to look at visibility. So the first demo that Sai did, that tool predominantly was to understand and have more visibility in the environment. This is more like a operations tool that you would have when you have on-prem workloads running in multi-cloud. It gives you a single pane of glass visibility across all of this, whether you're running containers, whether you're running virtual machines, physical servers, network devices. So the first tool that we demonstrated today was more around operations and visibility. The second tool that we spoke about is more a combination of advanced threat protections, which is a combination of intrusion detection and prevention systems, sandboxing, and network traffic analysis. You can further compile that and call it as a NDR, right? And all of these data can also be an input to your existing SIEM. So it can work existing in your existing environment along with your SIEM, but this is to basically create a security framework and deploy solutions that will help you understand your environment from an anomalous behavior and help you prevent or at least detect what threats are running in your environment and mitigate those risks.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Next, Mr. Vijay Devnath, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Kokil. I wanted to ask a very basic question is that what kind of training or the background is required to operate these tools? suppose I have all of them in future. So in a government setting, it is very difficult to get people to acquire that all kind of knowledge.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Vijay. You can continue.
No, that's what I wanted to ask. What kind of HR you need to deploy internally, or you have to depend only on service providers to operate these?
No, it's a great question, and trust me, it's not only government organizations. Even organizations would have similar questions. You definitely require skill sets to manage these tools, and so in one of the slides that I showed, right, of all the elements, people is also one of the elements, and it is extremely important to build the skill sets for the tools that you're using. But I would start with very basics of a basic understanding of what is a network and how do you secure various things inside those networks. So you will have to have people with skill sets. Otherwise, as you said, the option is to outsource this to security companies, some of the larger ones, the likes of EY and others, who actually help you do this or manage the environment and help you build this. But yeah, if you want to build this with all the tools in-house, you definitely need to have skill sets built for the people and the team. Otherwise, the tools are no use, I would say, right? So that is a very, very important aspect, and thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, great question. Last question by Mr. Udit Pahwa, my friend from Mumbai. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Vikas. Thanks, VMware team. I think it's an excellent presentation. But somewhere Vijay preempted my question in part. With so many dashboards, so many alerts, so many logs coming in, this is a huge area to keep monitoring, sifting through, etc. So even if I manage to keep skill set, there's a high human dependence and eyeballing required. What is the future trend or the roadmap to kind of reduce the human dependency? Even if I outsource it to somebody who has a NOC or SecOps setup, they also would require human elements to help me out. So what do you see in the future or the roadmap in terms of reducing the human dependence?
No, I think yeah, good question. And again, if you saw some of the slides that I covered, right, where predominantly where there is machine learning, there is AI that is running. So if you looked at one of these screenshots or dashboard that I showed, the idea is with all the data coming in, there is filtering that happens. The system automatically combs through that, and the actual output is a much more filtered, user readable data, right? So I'm clearly seeing a trend where people will move into XDR based dashboards in the coming future, because you will have this combination of endpoint devices, analysis done on top of that, and then you will have combination of network related events, and both of them merging together, and these systems that are meant to do machine learning and AI. And what we just showcased was just a part of it, but the idea is that yes, all this analysis is done by the system, and then there are a bunch of experienced, I would say, engineers, security engineers, who would go ahead and comb through this data and provide the actual output in the system that is far more user readable. If you go with traditional systems, as you clearly said, the likes of SIEM and others, you will have to make this correlation manual, and that is where you will have to have people and do that correlation and have those skill sets, right, which is extremely difficult. So yeah, again, great point. And the future is where you would kind of want to adopt XDR based systems and tools that can do all of this and throw the output in a very, very user readable format.
Great.
Thank you.
I think we cannot take more questions. So guys, last couple of things. If you want to download the participation certificate like this, what you got to do is go to Elite CISO's website, which is www.elitecisos.com. Go under training section, right? Don't go under events, upcoming events, go under training section, and then click on CP certificate. When you click on CP certificate, this will ask you your email address, your full name, and the secret to download is VMware. Very simple, right? Just type VMware and you will be able to get a certificate, something like this. Okay, I'm putting it on chat as well. The password is VMware, and guys, it is all small letters. V is not capital, W is not capital, it is not full in caps, it is small letters. Every time I see at least 20 people putting it either in capital or first word capital, so it is all small. Okay, so VMware is the password. That's what you can do. And if you are here on this site, you can see that, okay, we are coming up with a workshop on cyber insurance. This is a weekend workshop on 24th of July. I think nominal 2,000 rupees for elite CISO members. That's what the cost is. Cyber insurance, I need not to tell, it is very important for everyone to understand and probably even take our insurance, because a solar wind and Kaseya kind of attack can happen to anyone. So you got to protect yourself. So go ahead and register if you like. Apart from it, for next week, right? So go to the events and upcoming events. As I mentioned that we conduct webinars every week on Thursdays. So this Thursday, we are doing an event with Sentinel-1. Registrations are already open for this. And I think we have about 150 registrations already for Sentinel-1 session. On next Saturday, okay, we want to ensure that you have got something to do over a weekend and you are not going out and getting yourself infected with Corona. So we are doing all these events over a weekend. So next week, 5 to 6 p.m. India time, we are doing this event with Rubrik, and the talk is going to be around how do you protect yourself from ransomware, because we have seen that ransomware comes in the environment and it infects the backup system as well. So that's why we are bringing Rubrik, and they will talk about how do you defend your environment. Even if the ransomware comes, your backup should always be protected. Okay. If you register for it, if you click on register now, the registrations are closed for it, because what I wanted to say was the registrations I'm going to open, first 100 people to register for it will be eligible for what do we have this time? It's Apple AirPods. So it is not Amazon Alexa. We are going to give away 3 Apple AirPods. Okay. I'm going to open the registrations now for this in front of you. So you can go ahead and register for it. There are, I think, already few people already registered because it was earlier open. So you see right now it is closed, right? It is not accepting registrations. I am going to open it now, and now you can go ahead and register. First 100 people to register will be eligible for Apple AirPods raffle that we do. Okay, that's about this. And then for the Twitter contest, right? So we said that for this session, if you are going to Twitter and you're going to tweet about the session that you are going through, you know, whatever your learnings are, and the person who made the most tweets will be eligible to get 1 Amazon Alexa. So let me do a refresh over here and let's see who the top contributor is. So Mr. Rajesh Panchal, congratulations. You are the top contributor, top influencer, 154 tweets. Wow, kudos to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Vikas.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate you participating in this and spending your time understanding the session and even tweeting it so that others are also aware in terms of the session content. So that's great. Please send me your address and we will ship your Amazon Alexa. Okay.
Sure, thank you.
And the last thing that everybody is waiting for is Wheel of Fortune. So you see top 100 people who registered for this are part of the list over here. We will spin it. If your name comes, go to the chat window, type yes, that you are available over here. And we will ask you to come on camera as well, just to verify. So let me go and spin it once. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's see. So the winner this time is Mr. Pragnesh Mistry from RPG Enterprise. I think we were talking today morning itself.
Yes, yes. Hi.
Hi, Pragnesh, you are there. Great, great. Telepathy we were discussing in morning. Great, congratulations. Send me your address. So along with the Palo Alto Sessions gift, you will also get this one.
No issue, no issue. Thank you. I will WhatsApp you. Thank you.
Great, great. I think that's about it that we wanted to cover today. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining on Saturday, spending your time with Elite CISO and VMware. I hope this session was worth your time. So thank you, Sai. Thank you, VMware team. Excellent session. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.